Okay, so again, welcome everyone to today's session where we're going to talk about a systems inquiry tool and more specifically systems mapping, right? Since we started talking about systems inquiry last week, today is going to be the time to practice some of those concepts. We're going to recap a bit of what we covered last time, but we're going to use today's session to basically experiment with systems mapping. And the majority of the time, we're going to be doing that. Okay, so for the ones of you who don't know me, I am Yasmin, and I have here with me Anya, who is going to be my co-host and facilitator today. And yeah, if you have any questions or anything, you can ask Anya as well. She's more than happy to help you with any questions that you have. Okay, so today we're going to have a 90-minute session, and this is being recorded right now, and it's going to be available afterwards in the YouTube channel of the London Hub. And you're more than welcome to use the chat to address any questions, comments, anything that you feel like. Okay. Just to say again, today, this event is part of the Systems Innovation Learning Series that the London Hub is organizing. And this is a 5-month learning experience where we want to provide you several ways to really understand the systems innovation method that we have here. And this is the second session of the 3rd module of systems inquiry. Okay, so this is just a brief introduction to what we're going to cover today, and this is the structure of the session. All right, so a brief now 5 minutes intro, then we're going to 5-minute recap of last session. Then I'm going to share with you an example that we came across today, this week actually, that we thought it was very good to share with you in today's session. Then just a quick review on how to use Miro board and some extra details for today's session is going to be important. And then we're going to spend 15 minutes in the breakout room, then come back to share some insights, and then just wrap up and next steps. Okay. Yeah. So if you have any questions or anything so far, let me know. And this is pretty much the structure, right? We're going to spend a couple of minutes here until we break it out in the breakout rooms here. We're going to spend the majority of the time of today's session here. And then afterwards, we're going to have a final section of today's event. All right?
Yeah. Good.
So you all have access to the Miro board. Everything is good. Done.
Yes.
So, okay, we can jump in to the recap. So what we've covered last week, right? So these were the 4 main points that we tried to illustrate here in this session last week. So the first part is the importance of asking good questions, right? And this is one of the quotes that we've addressed on last time. Don't rush to answer, first challenge the question. So this is a very important thing to understand. And for today's exercise, this is going to be the actual first step for you to really start mapping, right? Because we need to start asking the question and then having a space for the action. But the foundation of the mapping is going to be this first question. Okay, so in general, it's always very good to address and to spend time asking and addressing a very good question. The second part of the session, we talked about what is a system, and then we shared with you this template, this graphic here, sharing some of the main aspects of a system, right? So we have the elements, and then the idea that all these elements are interconnected and they form a function, right? And if the function is a good synergistic one, then we have some type of energy. but we have the idea of entropy here as well, is when this function may not go in the direction that is going to be a sustainable one for the continuation of the system, right? So we talked about boundaries as well, the inputs, and of course the environment, that this system is always in an environment, and it's always important to understand the difference between both ideas. The third question that the third point that we mentioned last time was, what is systems mapping, right? And we talked about the very important aspect of mapping as a tool to really understand and visualize the system and the structure that is underlying. Sometimes we can't really see, but there are a lot of connections and energies going on here, and mapping allows us to really visualize and create, let's say, words for some things that sometimes we can't describe. So it's one of the main ideas behind the use of mapping a system. And lastly, we talked about leverage points. So here we share with you the leverage points paper produced by Donella Meadows, and talking about the idea that some impacts on the system are going to create the bigger leverage to transforming the system, while others are going to be less, is going to create less leverage to transforming the system. So here we have, let's say, a scale to really understand some of these leverage points and where we could intervene in the system to create and to leverage the transformation, right? So these were the four main points that we covered last time. And yeah, if you didn't come last time, then we have the recording of that session in our YouTube channel. So feel free to check that out. I'll have the YouTube channel link on the last part of this session, so you can check that one afterwards as well.
Freya.
Okay. So any questions so far? Any comments? All good? I can see something here on the chat. So please feel free, if you want to address, just unmute yourselves as well, and we can address them. Okay, so here, just an example. I wanted to just highlight again some of the main characteristics of systems mapping, right? So systems mapping maps are designed to reveal underlying interrelationships and structures of a complex system. So they are very, very visual tool, a very powerful visualization tool that can help change agents describe and diagnose the current state of a given system. Another very important aspect of systems mapping is understanding how systems structure creates the observable outcomes. And another one that I think it's a very important one to consider is that allows to gain an empirical understanding of what is before we engage in envisioning what could be or what we could be like. So sometimes we have an idea of what it could be, but then when we come to really mapping the system, we understand that sometimes we are not really looking at the system as a whole, right? So I have here an example. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to just share my screen again with you so you can see a system in action in a way. We came across this video this week, and we thought it was a very interesting way to really share with you the workings of a system, right? So let me share my screen with you so you can see that. So let me go back. Okay, So here, if you can see, you have the name is causal loops in the COVID pandemic. So here are all the elements that the person that created this map highlighted in terms of the COVID, right? What are the things that are actually happening here, and how all these different areas are actually interrelated. And this video shows the way that these elements are actually impacting one another, right? Some casual loops, as we call. So we can just see that. And of course, if you have any comments, please feel free to yeah, just share in the chat. So some things are, giving a positive feedback to one another, right? Some of those are negative feedback. So how important it is to actually see that in action and having a better understanding of the actual function of the system and the structure of it, right? The dynamics that are happening here and how all these different elements are actually impacting one another and creating what we call this COVID pandemic, right? So I don't know, I think it was a very interesting way to just start today's session as well, talking about maps, because that's what we're going to do today. So would you like to comment on this video? The link is on the Miro board. So yeah, what do you think about this video?
It's amazing. Is this a software that we can use to map for or
yeah, I think
or is something like an don't know, artificial intelligent way of like a chat GTP?
No.
No.
I think this one was made in Kumu. This is a common systems mapping tool that people normally use. We can put the link on the chat afterwards.
Okay.
But because we didn't create this one, I'm not sure. But yeah, that's probably made in a software called Kumu, or another one, right? But I think it's Kumu.
And Eduardo wanted to share. So Eduardo says he would love to see a systems map which shows the defunding education increases crime and incarceration in USA in the private prisons. Sorry, Eduardo, if I pronounce something wrong, but yeah, I think it's very interesting how one thing leads to the other in systems maps and the relationships between them, and how actually relationships can actually be newly created, which are in a way leverage opportunities, and how relationships can also kind of be changed, yeah, over time, and it's an organic process.
Yes,
Definitely.
coming to this organic process, I remember a long time ago, I used to follow this population growth and how population increases and leads to migrations, and that's a big topic. There was a one scientist from one of these Scandinavian countries. He just followed it throughout his career, and now his children are leading the foundation. No, I haven't followed his work recently. He's no longer there, but he is the one who started this type of mapping with the older tools. So now Kumo is showing it much better, how the population just leads to civilization changes and everything connected to the growth of populations. And of course, education, all those come in there.
Yeah, because we have the understanding of this idea of emergence, right?
Yeah,
so,
emergence and the way these links, these dynamic loops, they are constantly changing, and to be able to show it with visualization tools is a great advance.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
to me,
yes.
is amazing the time lapse.
Exactly. Yeah.
The time a system takes to move all as a whole.
Yeah.
Starting from one point to another point, coming back and forth, and then at a certain moment, some other point of the map started to move.
And that could be decades or it could be minutes. It's all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yes, sorry, say Anand.
Yeah, a map gives a certain realm and it could always be extended, and that kind of could lead to the next question that Gillian posed. What data are these maps based on? It's a very good question. And I've been wanting to make one for my team, but I am worried about leadership questioning its validity. So it always depends the way you gather data. You have different approaches to gathering data. If it's in a field that is quite scientific or needs more exploration, that's very dependent on the projects or the goals that a team wants to achieve. And that it really depends on how you want to measure it. What are the reasons behind your methodologies, and the methodologies then create the way the map is formulated.
Excellent. Bringing that data point, the traditional methods of using data and building models has changed drastically with the data science management. Basically, it went off from the way of looking at data for transactions. It went towards data science. So even there, the cloud and data mining, so many things come into place, and we forget that we often land up in crossroads, not knowing which direction to go.
Yeah. Pedro, would you like to address?
Yeah, hi. On that, I mean, one has to what it is an investigation of a system. So you cannot go there to prove your own position.
Yeah.
To start with, so you don't construct a map to prove that this happens. It's like in research. You need to, you can propose a hypothesis, but you need to investigate what it is and how it is connected. First you have the connections, the relationships, and the measurement. Well, yeah, measurements are not always straightforward. You have to have the right methodology to do the appropriate methods. And if you have statistical methods, then you have to apply good statistical procedures to acquire your data. If there are physical methods like energy outputs and other things like that, again, you need to do the proper measurements. You can see that in the IPRC climate change investigations to formulate that model. And it took a huge number of researchers and labs and time and discussion to confirm that the data is good, and it continues being discussed. So it's not a magic bullet to solve the problem, but to create insight onto which way to go.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And that's something that we normally say, right? The point of looking at the system is exactly what you said, is not to solve anything, right? We don't want to solve a problem, right, or a challenge that we prefer to call, but it's to create the space for the problem or the challenge to dissolve. So the system is going to work itself out to not create in a way these consequences, right? So I think there was a comment here in the chat about unintended consequences, and yeah, sometimes, you know, the working of the systems and its dynamics allows for a consequence that we weren't expecting, right? Because we have a very limited way to really see the system and to understand how the system is probably going to be in the future, but we can't look at everything. So the unintended consequences come exactly because we are just looking at things in our own way, in our own way of looking at the world. And this is a very, very important point as well to understand. And as you said, this is a whole inquiry. That's why we wanted to open this module as saying that this is systems inquiry, right? This is not about systems mapping. Systems mapping is a tool, but we need to ask questions every step of the way and to question everything all the time, because we don't really understand the systems, right? We need a lot of people, we need a lot of ways of looking at it. And yeah, that's why it's so important to always be open to new ideas and to always be welcoming new people, new agents to talk about the work, right? And I put here on the Miro board an interview that we had with Linda Booth-Sweetney last week, and that she talks a lot very well about systems mapping and how to use systems mapping for kids and in education. So I think it's a very good way to dive deeper into this idea as well. And I put the recording here so you can look afterwards, okay?
Okay, thank you.
So no worries. So for us to continue here and have some time to work on the maps, here I just wanted to share some more features of Miro board that are going to be important for this exercise that we're going to do. And here is the exercise that we did last week, right? So this is the city, and then we've added here the elements that we could see in the city, right? So we put here a tree, doors, humans, homes, cars, lights, a lot of things that we could, a lot of the elements that we could see, right? So for you, the ones of you who don't know how to use the Miro board, you have here on the left-hand side this bar, and then one of those icons is a sticky note, right? So you can click on the sticky note and then click again on the map or on the Miro board, right? So here you can select the sticky note and then you can just type whatever you want, right? So another thing here as well that we are going to use during today's session is the linking feature of it. So if you click on the Miro board, and you can practice on this board here, you have these four corners of the sticky notes. Then if you drag them, you can put them bigger or smaller, right? And if you see here, you have these blue dots as well. And the blue dots are the ones that we will need for today's breakout rooms, because these are the ones that allow us for connecting these sticky notes. So if you click here and you drag, you start to create this line. And then if you come here, you can connect that with the other sticky note, right? So we're going to be using that today. So if you want to practice a bit of that here, you're welcome to do so. Because this is going to be an important feature as well. So if you just click on the sticky note, you select those blue dots, and then you just drag to a different sticky note to create the connections. Okay? Yes. Good. You see you working there. Awesome. Great. So going to the breakout room part, I'm going to just explain briefly the exercise that we're going to do, and then I'll break it out in maybe, let's say, 4 breakout rooms. Okay. So
Sorry, Jasmine, I cannot see the dot on my. Where can I see the dot to create the link?
Yeah, you click first on the Miro, on the sticky note.
Okay.
Right, and then it's going to come all these dots around.
Okay.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
And then you just press the blue one and then drag.
And then you open it. Okay.
Yeah.
The blue one is at the bottom.
Okay. And this is a 3 is mine. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how can I create a connection? The blue, the little one, this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Fun. Done. Thank you very much.
Done. Great. Awesome. Very good. No worries. So, okay. So it's starting in the exercise. First, we have the 6 steps here, right? This is going to be a very basic exercise. So first of all, choose one pressing issue or challenge that you're concerned about. Write down what the problem is that you're focusing on. So just iterate in your group. What do you think are the challenges that you're concerned about? And then you can just write here some of them and select one of them to focus on today's event. Okay, today's breakout room, sorry. So first select the challenge, and then the second step is place the issue in the center of the canvas. So you have the canvas here, and then you have the first circle, right? So you press here the challenge for this example is water system of Cape Town, right? So this is the challenge that we chose in this example, right? You can choose whenever example you want, okay? So you first put here in the middle, and then the third part is what are the topics affecting the problems you have at hand? So you're going to identify the main, let's say, causes affecting the challenge that you have here, right? Then you put the sticky notes around in this second circle, all right? Afterwards, you're going to identify the supporting or surrounding factors affecting these immediate causes. So first, the first circle here, what are the immediate causes? And then the second part, what are the supporting factors, right, of these causes? And then the fourth step is to start drawing the connections. So the same way that we just practiced, you click on the sticky note, and then you come here, and then you identify maybe this one is connected to this one, and then you choose the connection there. All right. The fifth step, just 1 second, Pedro. Then after you do that, you look back and you ask, what are some of the main highlights you can notice after understanding these connections, after creating this map, right? And then if you have some time, then you can address this other question here. Talk about what do you think are the aspects that could leverage the biggest impacts in the main challenge. So this one, sometimes people don't have much time to do. So if you have time, then you can address this one. What do you think are the leverage points here that could create the biggest impact in the main challenge that you have here? All right. And the final step is to write the 3 main takeaways of today's session and put in these boxes here that you can see in each one of the breakout rooms. Okay.
Yes.
So, all good? Does it make sense?
Yes.
Any questions, Pedro? Sorry.
I just wanted to see if we went to the review slide that you presented
Yes.
at the beginning, And there is the one with inputs and outputs.
Yes.
Is that basically sort of a guide to that third step that you're asking? So asking ourselves to the problem, what are its inputs, outputs, and basic connections? Is that first step?
The first step is to identify the main causes, right? So what are the elements that are in a way impacting directly the challenge that you have in the center, right? Does it make sense?
So that applies to that input, output, entropy, and then interconnections, really.
Yeah,
right?
this is a bit more detailed. So yes.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? All good? Good to go? Okay, so here you have the number of the breakout rooms, right? So depending on the group that is going to appear for you, then you can join the breakout room 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 25 people. Let me stop sharing so I can create the breakout rooms. Okay, if you have any questions, then during the session, then you have a button that you can ask us any questions. We're going to walk around and see how you're all going, but yeah, you have the opportunity to address questions while you're doing the exercise as well. Okay. All right, so yeah, I can create 5 breakout rooms, and then here we go.
Just coming out of winter.
Hello, everyone. I think we're all back. Hope you had a good discussion in your breakout rooms.
Yes.
And I'm happy to hear some of the main ideas that you came up with during this time that you could work together. So I'm going to share my screen again. So we can have a bit of an interactive moment here to hear from each other and learn something from the session, right? So here I wanted to put the main highlights that you've added in your breakout rooms, so we can have a moment to vote in the most interesting ideas that are here, or the ideas that you think you didn't consider before but you think are relevant, right? I wanted to just copy these ones and then put here in case you didn't. So okay, I'm going to copy that and put there in the main section so we can look into each other's answers and then see what we can come up with. So group one, you had the three main highlights here. Would you like to talk a bit about them? Struggle, context and causes, what level complexity of problem do we solve, and connect the different elements involved. So just a brief on just these three main highlights here, and then you all can just drag these dots in the middle and point to the ones that you think are relevant, or you think you never considered before. Somehow you think the highlight is important in the case. So yeah, group one, would you like to talk a bit about that? Anyone?
So we were talking about food waste in the household. So we had a bit of a struggle identifying the difference between, okay, what's cause and what is context. Some of the things the elements we were discussing, they could be placed in both. So yeah, we've had Yasmin stepping in and helping us to identify the difference between them. And then, it took us a while as well to identify in which level we wanted to keep the discussion, because as you start to expand, become more systemic and complex, you start questioning, okay, are we zooming in and out enough, or from which perspective are we gonna address the problem? The challenge of connecting everything, because after a while the canvas becomes very busy. You start to get a bit lost with all the arrows, what connect with what, sometimes at the same thing, go forth and back. So yeah, it was a very interesting exercise.
Good, thank you group one. So yeah, group two, you have here mental, physical impact, economic impacts, and then unpredictability. So would you like to speak on that?
Well, I could just start by saying that the subject was climate change impact. So we looked at what kinds of impact, and mostly I feel unpredictability is like really a big impact that we can't. It's really hard, like in agriculture, to plan your crop, or in industry to make sure that there's a lot of projecting in the future, and that's very hard on a lot of aspects of life as human beings, predicting how things are gonna go, how we're gonna dress. Like just this morning, you go out and yesterday was 20 degrees and today it's 2 degrees. That's a lot of what we're seeing with climate change is unpredictability. Maybe the others in my group might talk about the other aspects.
Oh yeah, I think that's a very good point, right? How can we deal with unpredictability and things that we didn't really plan happen? What we do, we just stay with the warm clothes on summertime, or what do we do, right? So yeah, this is a very big one, not just for these trivial, everyday challenges, but for the big social problems and questions that we normally have, right? So yeah, thank you very much. I think this one's very, very relevant. So thank you, Wen. Thank you, group 2. We can move to group 3. We have here, okay, feedback loops between user and developer. Without proper regulation, bias can have unintended consequences, and access to all without biased control, the role of different organizations, defining and owning responsibility. Okay, would you like to expand on that?
So we started with the topic ethics of AI, and first it started off with one factor, like what is the role of I guess owning creativity or as an artist, and then a digital artist, and then that kind of rolled over into all kinds of areas. And I guess what we were trying to pack together in our 3 key insights is that in AI we found that the relationship between the user and the developer is quite interconnected and coexistent. So the developer doesn't develop by its own, it needs the user, as well as the user needs the developer in AI. And then we were looking into the ethics of it and thinking about how the exchange needs more regulation and unintended, so it doesn't lead to unintended consequences, and also regulating the biases from the developing point of view as well. And then we came to the last topic, which was how these developers, I mean, it's also the ownership of the organizations that hire the developers or that even produce these algorithms or AI. Where is the responsibility and the responsibility of all these organizations that are part of the development processes? So that was those were our 3 key findings.
Wow.
Oh,
Great. Thank you, Anya. Thank you, group 3. Very, very important topic nowadays, right? So yeah, we can go to group 4. You have here how the canvases help formulate the ideas organically and require a lot of communication. So would you quickly like to talk about that? Let's see if you have something here. Okay. So I'm assuming requires a lot of communication to create, right? To start unpacking the ideas and to come up with causes and what is causing what and what are the supporting areas, and all of these requires that you are very focused on the work that you're doing, right? And that you have this open flow of communication going on. Otherwise, it can be very difficult to listen to people and to actually put your ideas there. So yeah, I'm assuming that that's the part of the communication that you're talking about. And maybe the canvases, it's just that template that facilitates putting all these ideas together, right? And just create this visual idea of what you're doing. It's so important, right? Either writing or drawing or creating a graphic like that. It's always important to visualize what you're doing. So yes, thank you, group 4, and thank you everyone for participating. I think it was a very good session by the way that I went through the rooms and checked on the work that you're doing. So well done for the work today. So just to finish off, I have here on the last notes what we covered today, right? Just to very basic beginning on how to start mapping your own challenges and creating your own systems. So or you're creating your own map, sorry. So that's the main topic that we wanted to cover today. Here are the resources that we used. You can check them. I think they're locked now, but I will just unlock them very, very soon. So you can access them. You can just click here and access these resources. Here, section, I know you've put the main takeaways, but just in general, things that you want to share or just questions that you couldn't address today, you can put them in here, and we always come back here to address them afterwards, okay? So to finish off the next steps, here we have a case study on systems mapping next week. This one's going to be at 4 p.m. UK. It's not going to be at 5. So just a heads up on that. And here you have the link to access this one. I think it's going to be very, very interesting event. So please check that one out. Here we have a workshop happening next week as well, that we're going to have 2 hours to just work on systems mapping, and we're going to emphasize the leverage points part that we couldn't address here. So this one, we're going a bit deeper into systems mapping. So if you want to, just have a different experience on mapping as well, on different levels of understanding a map, then this one could be a good way to go. And yeah, as always, here you have the links to follow the SI London Hub. You have the website here, the LinkedIn, the YouTube, and this recording and all the other recordings that we have are going to be available on YouTube and Twitter as well. And here, a little feedback session. The 3 main questions that we have. Did you get a good understanding of the concepts today? Was the format of this section effective in helping you understand the content? And any ideas that you thing that we can improve on? So you can just put your sticky notes here on this line and then let us know. Okay, so that's it, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's always a pleasure to have you all here working and learning with us. So yeah, hope to see you all next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all.
Have a good day.
I have a question still. Can I ask a question? Yasmin?
Yes, sure.
When I check the hub, it says that the RSVP is closed.
Oh yes, the link is in the description. So yeah, if you go to the description, there is a link there. So it's not closed.
The description, and I just say, because there's RSVP are closed, and then I just say add to the calendar, or
yes, you can.
And then I get the link.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone. Take care.